You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is David Smith, Senior Analyst for the Morgan Report, which you can find online at silver-investor.com. Welcome to the show, David.
Good to be back, Jim, after a couple of weeks way down south.
Yes, I don't think you can get any further south unless you went to Antarctica. That's
about it. Spent some time down in Patagonia, landed at Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city in South America, and had a great time. Last year I went down there and combined it with looking at a mining property, but this time it was just straight fishing for very large sea-run brown trout and giant rainbow.
Wow. And you return them, don't you?
They all go back. It's all catch and release on very small barbless flies.
Well, we'll talk about some of the interesting impressions you got when you went to Argentina. But first of all, let's take a look at silver. You say $26 appears to be the magic number for silver.
I think it's a very important point on the charts. If you look at the weeklies, actually 25 is where you had a situation where from the fall from the mid-30s after the collapse from 50, there was nothing serious that took place in terms of a challenge by silver after the drop below the $25, $26 area. There was one move of about, I think, $5 that took place from 18 to 23, something like that, but nothing really serious to impede the longer-term cyclical downtrend, which we believe ended around the $14 mark, and it's now around $17 last fall in November. So I think that what we're going to see this year is that prices are going to go up through this area and challenge 24, and when they succeed at doing that, then if they get up to 25 and finally start building a base at 26, I think this will be a very powerful technical signal regardless of what else is going on in the markets at that time.
Precious money experts or precious metal experts have told me that when there is a big move, silver's going to move before gold.
Well, sometimes that's the case, and sometimes gold gets going stronger. So rather than be tied to that and say, oh, it's got to be that way or I'm not going to pay attention, I think we should let the market tell us if it wants to do it that way this next time. But at any rate, I'm interested in when silver moves regardless of what gold is doing. And I think that as silver gets stronger and it's building a very strong base in here along with the better mining stocks, I think we're going to see some very interesting work being done, punching up into the $24 area later this year. And when 24 is exceeded, then if you can hit 25 and 26 and build a base there, that will provide a launching platform for $34, $35 silver. So this is a stage-by-stage thing. Whether that happens this year for the $35 challenge area or next year, I don't know, very possibly next year, but I would be very happy to see us build a platform at $26 silver before the end of the year. And then once the 26 goes up and challenges 35, and once that's successful, then you have an immediate entree to go challenge 50, which is going to be very, very exciting indeed, and that should happen within the next year to 18 months, in my opinion.
Is the advice about silver predicated with the equity markets finally correcting?
There could be some of that, and there's people are evenly divided on whether or not we've got a lot more to go in the upside on the Dow, for example, and the S&P. But I really think, and by any definition, most of the gains that you're likely to see from this part of the cycle before we see a major top are already in there. It's not to say you can't make some more money, but when you compare the risk-reward ratio and the potential for gold and silver versus what's going on in the major market, it sure seems to me that there's compelling evidence that a person wants to have a position in the physical metal and in the better mining stocks. And I don't think it's ever been easier to choose the good guys from the bad guys now in the mining stocks based upon what we've seen of this literal bloodletting for the last 4 years.
Well, and people are a little scared to invest new money. I believe it's Ken Ross has decided not to put another $1.4 billion into a property they were developing overseas.
I just read about that. I think it was yesterday. And it's interesting. The people, the billionaire developers, really, they're motivated that they have the same emotions that you and I do, the small fish out there swimming around. And so, it takes courage on their part to go into and add an investment in a climate of uncertainty. And, as usual, a lot of those people are going to be playing catch up when things turn around, trying to open up a good property that they didn't invest in when they could have done it cheaper, or take over a company that they now pay 3 times as much for as they might have paid 6 months ago. So I think this is kind of an interesting thing. It's just an emotional human nature thing, and it's not easy right now. I can tell you it's not easy for me to add to a position in a particular couple of stocks that have not really made much of an up move in the last few weeks, but I know that they're good ones, and I really believe in my heart of hearts that when things really get going, that those stocks are going to really shine brightly. And so I'm happy to pay 50 cents or 45 cents for a stock that I know was, a $4, $5, $6 stock 4 years ago, and they're stronger now in terms of their defined resource and their management leanness than they were 4 years ago. Not as much cash in the bank, but definitely going to be there. And so I'm willing to wait, because I think when it happens, it's going to happen very quickly for the better companies, and trying to play catch up is not something that I want to do if I can avoid it now.
What's happening with China's plan to buy as much gold as they can lay their hands on? Are they still doing that?
That still seems to be underway, and the important thing here is if we're going to be looking for transparency and solid figures and things like this, we're not going to see those very often, because it's not in their self-interest to show their cards and play their hand. And so they're going to be doing this surreptitiously, and they're masters of that. And so, when you see the World Gold Council and some of these elements, coming out like they've got it all figured out, I don't think anybody really does. The Chinese know what the Chinese know. And the fact is they're still buying a lot of gold, and the Indians are doing the same. And the trend is our friend in that regard in terms of demand versus questionable supply going forward.
Is Russia also piling up its gold stocks?
Well, now theirs, every month they show the central bank purchases, and I don't know that there's been a month in the last couple of years when they haven't added to it, even though their financial situation based upon the fall of the ruble, the rupee is questionable how strong their financial structure is. They continue to buy gold, and you can be darn sure that what they are producing in country is not going anywhere either. So they're collecting at both ends of the supply piece. So I think they know something that maybe we should be more cognizant of.
We'll have more with David Smith, and he'll chat about his visit to Argentina.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
Welcome back. We're speaking to David Smith, senior analyst for the Morgan Report. David, you had a very interesting trip to Argentina. Maybe tell us about it.
I did. I spent 2 weeks there, got back just a few days ago, and I love going down there. I've been to Argentina for many times in the last 6-7 years, about probably 2/3 of the time looking at mining properties, and about 1/3 of the time or 1/4 of the time fishing, and sometimes a combination of the two. But what I did this time, I took down a roll of 1/10 ounce silver rounds, and I judiciously passed those out. I gave some to taxi cab drivers, and I gave some to some of the guides that guided us on our trip. And it was just amazing to me. There was no exception to this, regardless of the person I gave it to or their financial background or whatever. They were touched to see this little tiny 1/10 of an ounce amount of silver, of pure silver, in their hand, and their face glowed, and they rubbed their thumb and forefinger over it. And it really tells me, I've always felt this for a long time. I think that an understanding of gold and silver as being real money is something that has been in our system for thousands of years, and for a lot of good reasons, where it really helped people in times of extremis, and also in times of inflation, where business is good, but they made money by holding it. And I think that when the Argentines have had so much trouble with their currency. In 2009, it was about 3 to 1, the peso to the U.S. dollar, and now the official rate is 8 to 1, and the reality is on the street for the arbolitos, you can buy it for 12 to 15 to 1. So they've seen their purchasing power decline sharply year by year, and the inflation's anywhere from 25 to 35% now, and it really points out to me that they really get it, even if their options for getting the metal are limited. They really understand it, and when they hold that little 1/10 of an ounce piece of silver in their hand, it really is exciting to them.
And too, new research showing the medical benefits of silver being a disease fighter. It's more than money now. It could save your life.
Well, and it always has been. I mean, in the old days when the pioneers were coming across the West, they would put a silver coin in their milk to keep it from spoiling so quickly. And so, it's always been there. And like you say, the idea of using it as a medicinal. I mean, I had twice down there. I had a potential eye infection, and I sprayed my eyes with my contacts in with the silver that I use, a silver spray, and within a minute or so, it wasn't burning anymore. And within 5 minutes, my eye wasn't red. And I was in a place where if I'd had a trouble, it would have been very difficult to see a doctor within 2 or 3 days. And an eye infection can take your eyes out very, very quickly, your vision very quickly. I also ran a hook into my finger, and it was throbbing and this type of a thing, and I pulled it out, and I immediately took some silver gel and put over it, which, really sanitized it and put a Band-Aid on it, and within 5 minutes it was not throbbing anymore. So there's so many practical advantages to using silver. And Jim, I don't speak a lot of Spanish, what they call más o menos, but I keep trying to improve every time I go down there or if I go to anywhere in South America. And so what I did when I would give this little coin or maybe 2 or 3 of them to someone, I would say in Espanol, I would say, por usted, esta es la 10ª parte de la onza de plata pura. And what that means in English is, for you, this is 1/10 of an ounce of pure silver. And it really was gratifying to see their response to that. So I hope to get a chance to do that again one day. And when I go back down again, I'm going to do the same thing. It's really, really a neat feeling.
People love generosity of any kind, I think.
They do. And sometimes the more you give, the more you get. And what I got from them was more valuable than what I gave them in terms of dollar figures, but it also probably turned on a light bulb or two for them so that they really kind of maybe thought about, some of them may start thinking about getting connected with their past, where in several cases, just in the last, 50 years or so, Argentina has seen their currency reduced virtually to nothing. And so just think what having a tube of 1 ounce silver rounds or an ounce of gold would mean to somebody, even of fairly substantial means, in relationship to watching their pesos go up into the thousands from 1 or 2 or 3 to the dollar, and have that silver, and they wouldn't be wiped out. They'd have something, and I think that's important for all of us. In the West, we don't understand inflation very well, but that's taking place with us too on a smaller scale, but it's also ramping up. And so having a little bit of metal in your hand that's yours alone, I think is a good thing.
David, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
You bet. It's been great speaking with you today, Jim. Take care.
My guest has been David Smith, Senior Analyst for the Morgan Report, which you can find online at silver-investor.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net, or check out our popular YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.